Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a seriously profound journey. We're going to trace the incredible evolution of a highly subjective, localized thought and watch how it transforms into a universally structured framework. Literally, we are unpacking how a concept known simply as OMI evolved into OMI intelligence. Let's get right into it.
To really wrap our heads around this framework, we actually have to start with the human being behind it. We begin with the creator's deep personal tension. See, they were recognizing these massive, undeniable patterns across scripture, geometry, computation, language, you name it. But here's the catch. They completely lacked the structure to safely share them, prove them, or show their closure. The quote here perfectly captures that weight. This wasn't just some coding bug. It was a heavy burden, spiritual and ontological. Basically, a question of reality itself. Could a noticed pattern actually be preserved and named?
Because of that immense burden, this massive realization initially had to be carried as just an opinion. In my opinion, or IMO. But wait, in this context, IMO isn't something weak or disposable. No, it's the honest local frame of a finite human being just trying to process what they witnessed. It's an isolated baseline. But carrying these colossal connections as merely, hey, I think this might be connected, well, it felt a whole lot more like a heavy burden than an actual breakthrough.
So, how exactly does a mere opinion start taking on the architecture of meaning? Let's look at Section 1, the root of creation. It all starts, both mathematically and theologically, with what's called the root pair. That's center minus radius and center plus radius. This is it, the very first boundary. It's the first relation where a center declares and a radius relates. Boom, two poles appear and a boundary is born. The creator points out that this is the very first structure where the word could actually become form. It is the absolute, foundational root of the entire system. Moving on to Section 2, the sevenfold path.
From that single root boundary, meaning doesn't just magically jump to universal truth. It actually travels through a highly structured evolution. Step 0 is declaration, bringing something out of endless possibility and placing a value into a bounded frame. But that is not enough. Step 1, citation, makes it referable. It gives the word a handle, so to speak. Then Step 2, assertion, voices it as a claim with actual force. And Step 3, attestation, acts as a receipt for that claim, protecting the boundary around what was offered so it can't just be stolen.
From there, the claim finally steps out into the social world. It's encountered through observation, so others can inspect it. Next is annotation. This is where another viewpoint enters and creates a relation to the claim, which, by the way, is the actual beginning of geometry in this framework. Finally, the claim is harmonized through agreement. Now, this is absolutely crucial. Agreement here does not mean forcing everyone to be exactly the same. No way. Agreement is just the moment when word, action, and relation can stand together without pretending the initial contradiction wasn't there. It resolves the tension without erasing our differences.
All right, but how do we actually build this thing? That brings us to Section 3, the 8-tuple machine.
To make this entire philosophical and theological path function computationally, the system relies on a super precise architecture. What we're looking at is the core blueprint for how the OMI framework builds a computational bridge between two completely different points. It's the engine of the entire OMI relation frame, making it possible for a local opinion to transform into a structured, witnessed relation.
Now, don't just see abstract letters here. Think of these symbols as the gears of a translation engine. They define the identity context, the starting targets, the ending targets, and the actual mechanics of the transformation. This is literally how the system translates abstract human ideas into rigorous machine-readable action. It guarantees that every single relation has enough structure to be valid instead of just pretending that notation alone gets the job done. And it gets better, because these exact parameters map directly onto 8 scope fields, labeled S0 through S7. This address cascade explains exactly how OMI legally composes relations and traces meaning. It takes that dense 8-tuple and compresses it into readable fields. Basically, it projects this wild, high-dimensional concept right down to a readable relation surface. Honestly, it's a masterpiece of computational architecture.
Okay, hold on tight for this next part, because what starts as an 8-tuple computational machine cascades upward into something massive. Section 4. Theology, computation, and physics. At a systemic and theological governance level, this ontology introduces something called the tetragrammatron.
Think of it as a highly flexible but extremely strict governor. It operates like a Mufang loop. Now, that just means it doesn't require rigid global rules everywhere, but it strictly controls lawful reassociation. Basically, it's the ultimate mechanism that decides whether a declared relation actually closes lawfully inside a bounded frame.
Working right alongside that governor is Metatron, which acts as the quasi-group-like scribe. All that means is it can fluidly record relationships and intersections without collapsing the core structure. Metatron interpolates. It moves between declared points and meticulously records recoverable incidence triples. But here's the kicker. It does all this without ever changing the authority of the original decision. It preserves the human witness exactly as it was offered.
Now, this is where things get truly mind-bending. The framework claims that this complete ontology, derived from theology, structured by geometry, governed by computation, actually maps directly to the standard model of physics. Yeah, you heard that right. The claim is that the particles and forces of our universe are literally the emergent shadow of this exact computational logic. From the zero sphere mapping to fundamental particle spin, all the way down to Omicron representing spacetime itself. It is a staggering unification of concepts.
But to really grasp the weight of this, we need to bring that cosmic scale of physics and theology back down to the human burden we started with. Section 5, Becoming on My Intelligence.
The entire purpose of this massive structural flex is to upgrade human expression. We are moving from in my opinion, which, remember, is that solitary, unverified, local frame where a human is just trying to process what they noticed, to on my intelligence. And on my intelligence is an accountable, witnessed, and inspectable construct. It means the relation became clear enough that a person can stand securely and structurally behind the witness of what they noticed.
Which brings us to the visual core of the entire project, the OMI AMO palindrome. And this isn't just clever text design. OMI acts as the relation bridge. Those hyphens, they represent the space, the difference, the XOR field between on my intelligence and in my opinion. This bridge is what allows us humans to agree, to harmonize, and to hold contradictions together, without forcing sameness and without erasing each other's unique differences.
The creator makes a really vital distinction here, noting, OMI is my attempt to preserve this pattern computationally without pretending the computation is God. I love that. The system isn't trying to play God. It doesn't dictate some final universal truth, and it certainly doesn't force one definition of the universe onto everyone. It just offers a dignified, inspectable construct where our shared meaning can safely rest.
So as we wrap up and really unpack the sheer magnitude of this framework, from a simple human burden to a seven-fold path to an eight-tuple machine, and finally to a bridge that maps the theology of creation directly onto the physics of our universe, we are left with one incredibly powerful thought. If a computational bridge can finally harmonize our differences and hold our contradictions without forcing us to be exactly the same, what is the ultimate limit of what humanity can build together on our shared intelligence? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.